And so this is like late 80s, maybe early 90s when this model was created. And it was basically a model of abstinence. For 90 days, the addict is to have no sex with nobody under any condition. The therapist dictates that. The therapist tells the addict, you are not to have sex in any type, in any format, for any reason, for 90 days. Okay, that's where it came from. The wife has no sexual voice in this model whatsoever. So after she's been betrayed or withheld sex from for years or neglected sexually or wants to even reestablish sexuality with her husband, she's told no. She has no voice. It's all about the addict. It's all about what he needs. And that's the way it goes. Now, I have never for one day bought that idea. It's true he needs to totally avoid all object sex. Pornography, fantasy sex, disconnected sex, self-behaviors, absolutely on board with anything that has to do with object relationship sex. Not just for 90 days, but for the rest of their life. But he still needs to start a sexual relational template at some point. And so this model doesn't allow that to occur in 90 days. He does, however, need to have a relational template built at some point. Now, I am 100% on board with stopping all object sex. But in this camp, all sex is treated as object sex, okay? And it's not true. Object sex is totally different. You're in an altered state. You're disconnected. You make the rules. You're the God in the world. That's object sex. Relational sex is connecting to another human being, being vulnerable, being present. Your eyes are open. You're looking into their eyes. You're making love. You're not having sex. These are two different things. And I agree, the object sex needs to be, stopped. But relational sex can occur and develop neural pathways towards that. That relational attachment is powerful. And if both people are willing, she should at least have a voice in that process. Okay? Now, to be fair, this model was created before any neuroscience was even started. It was a guess of what was going on. Okay? Now, I don't like in this model that the wife has no voice. I don't like that. And so, ladies, if you're watching this and you went to a therapist and they told you you have no sexual voice, you have to decide if that's the right therapist for you. Because your husband's made decisions about your sexuality, and now your therapist is telling you have a sexless marriage. And also, this camp has no training on intimacy anorexia. So the intimacy anorexia sex addict gets a full pass on, I got to act out, I got to hurt you, now I get to continue to avoid you with the sanction of the therapist telling you that sexual avoidance is healthy. Well, there's no way that it's healthy for someone who's a sexual and intimacy anorexic. So that variable wasn't taken into place. It wasn't even created back when this model was developed. So I'm trying to be as fair as possible. Now, I have no issue with a wife wanting to heal sexually, who's dealing with triggers, who's dealing with trauma. I developed the partner betrayal trauma model. I understand that. I have no problem with that. Okay, but being mandated to be sexually abstinent is not helping her have a sexual voice. It's not helping their marriage. It's not helping them to even have skills of having a discussion. It's, nope, nothing now. We'll talk about that later. So that's the first model that has come out in dealing with sexuality as a reaction to sexual addiction. Now, to be fair to this model, and I always say this, they were only treating one problem, the sex addict. They weren't looking at the partner, and they weren't looking at the marriage at the time of its development. And they've made some changes and growth, but I want you to understand, if you've gone to that model, that is not the end-all, be-all. It's not the gospel and the movement, okay? You can be sexual relationally. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you might have experienced that. Dr. Weiss's opinion is there's no reason if a couple is willing to have relational sex to not have relational sex. I never want a woman to experience object sex. I want him to be connected to her during sex as much as he can be and walk through that growth process together as they can together, to negotiate that together. Okay, so that's just my opinion on that.